There is a very intelligent way to do shadow work, and there's a very unintelligent way to do shadow work. For those of you who don't know, shadow work is the willingness to explore the parts of our psyche that we've denied, demonized, and shamed. These are the parts that have been shamed by society, demonized by society. Most people have completely severed any kind of affiliation or association with this part of themselves. Shadow work can be extremely destabilizing. So for those of you who are interested in diving into your shadow, understanding yourself better, because that's what it's really all about. It's about understanding yourself so much better. As Carl Jung says, until we make the unconscious conscious, it'll direct our lives and we'll call it fate. If we don't meet our unconscious willingly on the inside by doing inner work, it'll meet us on the outside through the situations and circumstances of our lives. Shadow work is about diving into that place where most people have lost touch with due to a cognitive dissonance. It's that gap in their own psyche that they've disassociated with. In Soul Symphonics, I created the figure 8 of intelligent shadow work. It's broken down into basically 2 phases. The first phase is all about developing a solid foundation, a solid practice of learning how to develop and nurture your nervous system, how to develop positive self-talk, how to develop ventral vagal capacity so you feel safe in your own body to at least a certain degree. Now, obviously, doing shadow work is the whole point to get into deeper coherence and healing of the nervous system. But there are things that we can do in our lives, foundation principles, meeting our sacred trinity of primary human needs, which is about developing the nervous system. So the whole first phase is learning how to nurture yourself, how to nourish yourself, how to begin a lifestyle of living in respect, honor, and care for self. That's the first phase. The second phase, I go deep into archetypes, into suppressed emotions, into the metaphysical architecture of what the shadow creates in our lives, in which I call the unconscious entropic thread or the unconscious entropic web. And a lot of this wakes people up to their own unconscious and the lives that they've created that are not sustainable, that are basically built on sand. The reason why you want to develop a solid foundation in respect, honor, and care, and really developing your nervous system is because you're going to have to process a lot of suppressed emotions. You're going to revisit painful traumas in the past that you've blocked out. You're going to have to come face to face and confront some hard truths about yourself, the life that you've created, the habits that you've developed. A lot of times when you peek into your shadow and you really uncover what your shadow has created in your life, you're going to see that there's some really hard decisions you're going to have to make, that it's put you in predicaments. The interesting thing about the shadow is that the more you suppress and deny these parts of yourself, the more you demonize these parts of yourself, the more it gives it power, and it becomes a very distorted, corrupted way of living. These parts of yourself seek out to meet your sacred primary needs through very distorted, corrupted ways. But the more you start to embrace your shadow and learn how to respect, honor, and care for these parts of yourself that were once demonized, the more you dissolve that power for it to rule your life. It's very paradoxical. It's very similar to what prohibition did when there was a whole prohibition of alcohol and what that did in society. It became worse, right? It's the same thing regarding our own shadow. The more you suppress parts of yourself that are really just trying to get their sacred trinity of primary human needs met, the more it becomes distorted and corrupted and seeks out to get these needs in very destructive, corruptive ways. Shadow work is truly the only way you will really get to understand yourself and change your behavior for the better. Beneath every addiction, every kind of addiction, whether it's to control, attention, approval, instant gratification, enmeshment with unhealthy relationships, beneath every single addiction is your shadow doing and orchestrating all of that behavior. That's why this whole work in Soul Symphonics is so deep. And when I talk about addiction recovery, it has to go this deep. We have to understand the mechanics of addiction and what it's creating in our lives and why that even exists. What is the addiction trying to serve? What is the need trying to get met?